2 months before my ex-husband and I finally separated, we had a trip to Disney planned. And a few weeks before that trip, my ex-husband had gotten fired from his job and was yet again unemployed.
What's the point of women settling and tying the knot forever just to have a lifetime headache, just to be burdened with being the matriarch and the patriarch of the household? Not only the lover and nurturer, but also becoming the provider as well. Modern women are choosing to be single by choice. It's becoming true that women don't need men. Now with modern day technology, women are better off on their own. They can do bad on their own and good on their own. It's not about being bitter. It's about doing better. When you realize the headache diminishes once you stop babying that man-child, women realize that they really don't need the burden. And taking on another grown man as another dependent, it's just more of a burden, and it's best to just do it yourselves. This woman's realization kicks in when she's planning a family trip, and she realized just how alone and alienated she is in this relationship all along.
I think the wives on here already know before I say it, but I planned that trip myself from top to bottom. It's not because I didn't want help. It's not because I didn't ask for help. It's because he would not give me help. I had narrowed down the Airbnbs to a handful of options, and I just wanted him to finalize the decision with me. Could not be bothered to find 5 minutes to sit down and look at houses with me. So I rented the house myself. I rented the minivan to drive there myself. I coordinated the trip from Pennsylvania to Florida for 4 adults, my parents went with, and 2 kids, myself. And if you've ever planned a trip to Disney, you know you don't just show up on a whim to Disney. You need to know which days you're going to which parks. And then within those parks, you need to know which restaurants you really want to go to, because you have to reserve them months in advance, especially if it's like the high demand restaurants. And then you want to do your fast passes for the big rides in advance. And then you have to coordinate your lunch reservations with your ride reservations to make sure you can get there in time. So there I am looking at maps of the parks, trying to coordinate. Can we get from that ride to that restaurant? Is that enough time? Like hours of planning, hours and hours of planning. And then packing everything for the kids for a week in Florida, plus obviously packing everything for myself. All this man had to do was show up. He just had to show up with a suitcase of clothing. I paid for everything. I coordinated everything. He just had to show up. And do you think he appreciated that? No. Shocker, right? The bitching and moaning this man did the entire trip. Nothing suited. Nothing suited. It was too hot. It was Florida. There was too much walking. There was too much waiting in line. What's the point of having reservations if you still have to wait when you get there? Why is our lunch reservation at 1:45? Who eats lunch at 1:45? Because that's what was available. Because that particular restaurant, I remember it. I don't remember what it's called, but it's the one in Magic Kingdom where like Winnie the Pooh and them all are. And it was important to let the kids have lunch with Winnie the Pooh, even if it's at 1:45, right? Just like nothing about it suited. And if you have young kids, ours were 5 and 2 at the time, and you're planning a trip to Disney, you know that trip is not really about you. You might find some stuff that you enjoy while you're there, but the trip is for the kids. It's about letting them have that magic experience, and then you get your fulfillment from watching them have that experience, right? Like, you're not going to get to do everything you want to do, but you want to try and get your kids as many of those experiences. So we had lunch at some weird times so that the kids could have lunch with the characters. Like, that's just what you do. But every part of this trip was just so much bitching and moaning, and nothing I had done was good enough. Everything was, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Bitch, why didn't you help plan it? Right? Like, I had to do everything. And I will never forget, on the drive home, we stopped at a Chick-fil-A for lunch, and I was driving that portion of the trip. Like, we had the 4 adults, we took turns driving. I was driving as we were cruising into lunch, so I handed him my phone, because I had the Chick-fil-A app, and just to have him put in the lunch order. And it was such a fucking debacle that, like, he didn't even order anything for me. And so we get to Chick-fil-A and we have to wait for the food because I had to order more. And my mom and I are with the kids in the little play area they have there. And I lost it. Like, I just finally had a meltdown. And I remember saying to my poor mother, what's worse, putting the kids through a divorce or spending the rest of my life with this idiot? And she just looked at me, because up until that point, like, I hadn't really voiced to my parents how unhappy I was. Like, I was kind of leaving them out of it, right? But I had just seen what the rest of my life was going to be like with this man. It was going to be me doing everything and it never being appreciated. And I just couldn't do it. Let's stop pretending that letting your partner default to making all the decisions is somehow doing them a favor. Let's stop pretending that saying, oh, you do what you decide, whatever you want. Let's stop pretending that's like a gift, because it's not. I don't want to be told, oh, you decide. I want you to decide. I don't want to make all the decisions. Do you know how nice it is to just show up and somebody else has actually planned something? I never experienced that until my current relationship, where it's like my man now, he'll just plan a date night, and all I gotta do is get ready and look pretty. And it's so nice. Let's start being partners. Because I think that's what we all want. We want a partner. We don't want another responsibility.
My mother asked me about being a mother soon, and I said I would much rather be a father than I would a mother. The workload distribution is way more on the woman's side than it is on the father's side. And this is why a lot of women are choosing to be single by choice or holding off until they find the right man. No shaming and rushing us down the aisle. We are willing to take our time, and well into our 40s, 50s, we don't care how long we ever got to wait to meet somebody who gets it. Somebody who was properly raised by a woman who shows them that, look, you need to pull your weight in a relationship. Just going to work and getting your money is not all it takes to maintain a household. A lot of modern men and old school men think that all they got to do is provide a paycheck. But in this woman's case, this man couldn't even do that. And he had the audacity to complain and gawk about every detail. This is what the entitlement is, that men think that they don't have to do anything. They just show up and then the party just starts around them. Women are fed up with these roles that we have to play in household. They're not realistic. There is no more village where the girls in the neighborhood can compensate for the lack thereof of men. Now everything is digitized and online and isolated. So we really need everybody to pull their weight in the household. And so after listening to this woman's story, it really triggered me in recognizing that a lot of us go through this when we're dating somebody and they expect to just have a seat at the table. They talk about, what do you bring to the table? Apparently we bring everything. We plan it, we clean it, we put the food on it, everything. And then what do? You just sit down at it. Women are tired of that. It's burdening. It's pulling out our hair. Our hair is turning gray. We don't want to have to tolerate grown boy behavior. When we submit our lives to you, we give you so much. We give you loyalty, our womb. We even compromise our sanity after postpartum, and just going through a relationship alone is just very emotionally up and down. You don't know what your partner is doing and whatnot, and there's a good chance that women are going to be more loyal and faithful to the man versus the man to the woman. That's just the way it's always been. Women just have it in their heart to just respect and have more loyalty to their partner versus the men. So when she's planning all this, doing all this, coming out of the pocket for all of this, and for him to just sit there like an entitled child, it really turns you off to wanting to get married. You see, women are recognizing that we don't have to tolerate this crap anymore. We don't have to be shamed into staying into relationships anymore, because now we realize that a lot of the women are single and married women, meaning that even though they're in a relationship, even though they're in a whole house with a whole man, they still are by themselves. You know, I was living in this toxic dynamic, and recently I just escaped. You know, the man I lived with, he was nowhere to be found. He resorted to sleeping out in his car for months on end. And you would have think that something bad would have happened. But no, he was just having a mental health breakdown. And you know, imagine if I had kids. Imagine if I had a child that had to endure their father rejecting them, going outside, only coming in the house 30 minutes at a time to take a shower and take a shit. You know, women are fed up with dealing with men. They don't have to do much but just go make a paycheck. And it's like they act like they have to go breastfeed somebody. They act like they have to go cook the dinner. They don't have to do anything other than what they love to do. Go around a bunch of guys. They love hanging out with men. Listen, don't get me started on us begging guys to show up for us like this woman had to. Beg him, please, can you just do this? Take a look at this. They couldn't even do that for a split second. So you know what I'm finding out is that a lot of men that you're begging to do something for, it's like we think that they're disabled. But really, let this man tell you from his own words what's really happening when you have to beg a guy to be a man.
Ladies, I'm going to say it again. Stop taking care of your husband. Stop trying to save him. Stop trying to fix him. Stop coddling him. Stop enabling him. Stop trying to change him. You are doing a disservice to you and to him and to your kids. As hard as it is for you potentially to stand by and watch him behave in ways that you know aren't good for him, in ways that are dysregulating for you and perhaps for your kids? I get it. I understand. It can be incredibly hard day in, day out to watch the man that you love make poor decisions, choose different paths than you would. When you try to tell and coerce and manipulate and control and then disguise it as trying to help him, ultimately all you're doing is hurting the entire situation. And the reason why you continue to move in those directions is because of your inner wounding, your need to control everything and everyone around you. Now, there's a positive intent underneath. You believe that if you control, if you direct, if you stand up in your masculine energy, that things will get done. Your husband could actually change, but it never happens and it never works. And listen to this very carefully. No man will ever do anything until he has the leverage in which to do so. He must make the decision to change, to grow, to transform, and to heal. You cannot do it for him. Or even if he does capitulate, if he does what you want him to do, he's not doing it out of his spirit and his soul. He's certainly not doing it out of his masculinity. So what's your course of action? Your only responsibility, ladies, is to make you your priority, to focus on your growth, healing, and transformation. That is my challenge to you. You can do this, and you are worthy of it.
This reminds me of my high school relationship where I was perfectly fine with being the breadwinner. He was fine with me going to law school and being a breadwinner, but he never supported me when it came to studying. And, to this day, I go back and see him, and this man is almost pushing 40, still living in his parents' basement. Now, it's one thing if you got to go back because of the pandemic or whatnot, but he ain't never left, okay? So just imagine marrying a guy like this just on the merit of love. Love is blind and stupid. And what I'm realizing is that this is like weaponized incompetence, where women have always been, programmed to carry the majority of the work in the house because men are quote unquote stupid. But they're not that stupid. They could go on a job and work fine with other men. They could collaborate with their coworkers and their bosses. They could stay on the job for 10 years. But when it comes to at home, just like I said in my recent relationship, they work well with other men, but they're horrible at home. You know what I'm saying? And this is the training and lack thereof upbringing in their lives that women, you just don't have to compensate for. Like we said, there's somebody outside the home that he's going to act like he's competent enough for. Or he's going to find and seek out somebody maybe younger, dumber, somebody that's even on drugs, just so they can feel more like a man. So they know how to seek out people who make them feel like a man. They can either choose to elevate or they'll just date down. So women, we need to either date up or dumb it down in order to be with our men. So what are you going to choose? Are you going to dumb it down or are you going to date up? Be the woman that guys are trying to compete for versus you trying to be the woman who's competing for a dumb guy. Stop taking crap. Don't be the main chick. Stop the main chick energy that stops this summer, okay? Let guys impress us. Let the guy try to seek our validation instead of the other way around. Because in the long run, like he said, he's only going to be doing these acts, not because he really wants to, not because he's becoming a better man, but because you're programming him. And he's trying to just basically satisfy you just to shut you up. We talk about shut up rings. We talk about all these, shut up gestures men do. That's what it is. They truly don't want to change for us. They'll just find somebody else who's dumber than us so that they can feel better. We're requiring elevation, but instead he'd rather just date down. So just eliminate yourself from the equation. And I'm no expert, but I'm just telling you from my experience. And so are these people right here. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Talk to you in the next one.